Shalom, this is the message in English brought to us by Rabino Iosef Chemi from Argentina, and it's on Parashat Vayetze. Shalom, today we're going to look at Parashat Vayetze. I want to read Bereshit, Genesis chapter 28, verse 17. And he was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven." As you know, Jacob runs away because Esau wants to kill him. At Rivka's request, Isaac sends Jacob to the family of her brother Laban to find a wife. He had no money, no camels, no jewelry. The meeting between Jacob and Rachel is well known. He removes a stone from the well, he waters Laban's flocks, and then she runs to tell Laban and her father that Isaac's son has arrived. So Laban, what does he think? He's coming with wealth, like in the case of Isaac. But then he finds out that Jacob is a poor man. And then Jacob falls in love with Rachel. He begins to work 7 years for her. And as you well know, on the day of the marriage, what does Laban do? He gives him the older sister Leah. Then we read in chapter 29, verse 25, an angry Jacob says to him, "V'lama rimitani? Why have you deceived me?" In this process, we are seeing the work of Jacob to elevate, to get above his soul and his potential, to get beyond it. Before leaving the land, he had dreamed about a staircase with angels ascending and descending, and God telling him, "I will protect you and I will take care of you." And then Jacob promises, "If you give me everything that you promised, I will give you a maaser, a tenth of everything that comes into my family, into my life materially." Over the next 14 years, he would obtain 2 wives, and in the process of 6 more years, he would increase his livestock and his wealth. Next, we will delve into the development and the tikkun, the restoration of the soul of Jacob. He did receive the birthright, but by deceiving Esau. But Esau had despised it and readily sold it to him. Later, we see a dispute among Jacob's women to be able to provide him with descendants. The birth of his sons begin with his 2 main wives, from his 2 main wives and his concubines. Notice how interesting the names of their children are, the progression. Each have to do with an encounter between man and God. The first is Reuben, which means see, we see God. Next, Shimon, we hear. And then with Levi begins devotion. And after devotion comes Yehudah, gratitude, praise. And with gratitude, we reach the next level, Dan, judgment, where we begin to understand that there are rules within existence. The next, we come to Naphtali, God has turned to us, containing the idea of facing the judgment, the consequences of his rules. Then with God appears fortune, the material goods necessary for our journey. Thus we realize that God always provides us with what we need so that we can continue to move forward on our journey. Then Asher, happiness. We then understand the meaning of Issachar, the reward. We access the abode, the quiet, the palace of the king with Zebulun. And after this, the level of the soul with Joseph. We are attached to the divine. Each of the names of the sons of Jacob hints at a stage in the advancement of the soul and the restoration of inner peace. Now tired, Jacob wants to leave. He wants to return to his land. But here arises the historical conflict of Laban with Israel, replete with hypocrisy. They welcome us, we bless them, Laban gets rich, and when we want to leave, they begin to see that we have prospered. Then they want to destroy us. God had to intervene and tell Laban, don't touch him, and don't speak either good or bad to him. Then Laban tells him, you left without my being able to give you a proper send-off or even kiss my daughters and my grandchildren. What a liar, what a hypocrite. And as we read, that Rachel had taken the teraphim, the local gods that were in Laban's house. Hypocritical, pagan. And Rachel, why did she take them? Well, there are two opinions, among others. Some say that it was an act of good for Laban to stop trusting those gods. And others say, in reality, Rachel was imbued with paganism to that time. Well, let's leave that open to interpretation. Then Jacob returns to his land, and in the distance he sees Machanaim, an encampment of angels, those angels who had accompanied him to the limit and then withdrew. And those angels who later accompanied him out of the land of Israel now withdraw so that the protectors of the land of Israel can return. The entire story has something in common with the encounter between Rabbi Yeshua and Netanel. Rabbi Yeshua says Netanel sitting under the fig tree. And he says, here is the true Israelite, Ish Tam. I'd like to remind you that Jacob would later be renamed Israel. The Sod, or mystical understanding, would be Ishar El, the one who goes directly to God. And Netanel says to him, why did you see me sitting under the fig tree? Then Netanel tells him, this is the Son of God, a messianic title for the Messiah. And Yeshua answers him, from now on you will see the Son of Man being served by the angels, and that angels ascend and descend to him. What is Rabbi Yeshua telling us? First, that he is the Messiah, the Son of Man. And secondly, he highlights Netanel because he's sitting under the fig tree. The fig tree represents the Torah, and all its branches are the commandments, and being seated implies the study of, the preparation. The soul rests within the divine will. But Yeshua adds, I am the Son of Man. I come to bring the intention of how to live the commandments. If you live them as I teach you, then you will have the same experience as Jacob, understanding that the portal to heaven is within you, which is where the house of God is, Bet Elohim, beyond the structure of a temple. As it is on the outside, so it is on the inside. As it is above, so it is below. If the Shekhinah is in the temple, the presence of God is also within us. And that is the function of the Messiah, to ignite our souls and for us to go through the different soul levels, from the nefesh, the physical, to the Ruach HaKodesh, balancing the emotions, to the neshama, the soul on fire, and then finally the nefesh chaya, the soul with all the inner life developed. To reach the end of all the work of our soul, the yechidah, the union through the Messiah. What does all this story teach us? That Jacob had to work hard to develop himself, that God protected him throughout his journey, that he was loved, that he was rejected, and that he found the portal to heaven, that the Messiah opens to all of us so that we can reach the fullest states of existence: peace, happiness, love, and inner life. Shabbat Shalom.